What's up YouTube? This is the Usual Christian with the Usual Christian video. Today, I would like to start with a quote of one of the best basketball players in history. In the NFL, they got a bunch of old white men owning teams, and they got that slave mentality. And it's like, this is my team. You do what the F I tell y'all to do, or we get rid of y'all. This is a quote of LeBron James, the star player in Los Angeles Lakers, at an HBO show, The Shop. You see, LeBron's English isn't too difficult to understand, so we all get what he's trying to say. But I'm not quite sure about the part where he's trying to compare the NFL players to slaves. Clearly, slaves didn't have the freedom to become an athlete, nor did they have the millions of dollars. Today, I want to talk about an issue that is as hot as sexism, and that is racism. You might think, what does feminism has to do with racism? Exactly. That is exactly what I thought. As it turns out, the frontier of today's racial equity activist organization, the Black Lives Matter, was founded by three black feminist activists, Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Opal Tometi. So the claim of Black Lives Matter is that there is an institutional racism along with sexism. Not just racism, but institutional racism, where there is a systemic oppression on races other than white. If you have already seen my previous video, you can see that there is no institutional sexism nor a sexist culture. But the question of today is this: does institutional racism exist? I agree that there is racism. Racism is anywhere. There are 7.7 billion people living on Earth. There are all sorts of people out there. It's dangerous and weird. I've seen a dude who dipped grapes in ketchup. I think that's hella weird. Anyways, of course, racism exists, but it sure isn't institutional. You see, throughout the world history, racism definitely was deeply embedded in the Western culture. No doubt about that. I think we all agree that racism was one of the core ideologies behind the imperialism or colonialism, which led to the transatlantic slave trade during the 15th century to 19th century. In the Far East, there was the Imperial Japan that enslaved the Koreans, Chinese, and almost all the southeastern countries. However, this Japanese imperialism comes to an end after the Second World War. During the 1960s, all of the North American lawful segregation between the colored and the non-colored, like the Jim Crow law, comes to an end as well. However, the claims of the feminist Black Lives Matter is that first, there is a racial profiling that leads to police brutality. Second, there is an economic oppression that leads to poverty. Third, they claim that there is a social oppression that doesn't allow races other than white to succeed. I used to believe these claims are true until I have seen the reality. These claims used to be true, but I can tell you boldly, not in today's society. First, racial profiling is honestly inevitable. People judge and get judged. Nobody can know the contents of others unless they engage in a relationship. Of course, we are going to say that the watermelon is green when we have never tried it. You can't force others to try when they don't want to. At the crime scene, witnesses' testimony is crucial. They will describe the appearance of the criminal first. Are they stereotyping? Are they prejudiced? If they even mention about the color of the skin, are they racist? There are so many people on Earth, how are we supposed to get rid of the stereotype and know the content of all characters? We should strive to, but we aren't psychic. Most people think I'm Chinese. What can I do? There are so many of them. Plus, I know we all look the same to Westerners. I mean, white people honestly look the same too. Does this racial profiling lead to police brutality? I'm pretty sure there are crooked cops or racist cops out there, but let's face the facts. The black or African American population in the US is about 13%. Of all the murder arrests, 51% of it were blacks. 13% of the population is responsible of 51% of the murder arrests. Is racism driving black people to murder? The majority of the murder victims are also blacks. It means they are killing each other, not institutional racism. If this is the case, then shouldn't police officers be extra alert in the black neighborhoods? This is not racism, this is human instinct. If I'm in the Amazon jungle, I'm going to be alert and watch my back. Then why is crime rate, poverty rate in the black community so high, let alone the Aboriginal community? This is a quote from Barack Obama, the former president of the United States, on June 21st, 2010 for Father's Day. We know when fathers abandon their responsibilities, there's harm done to the kids. We know that children who grow up without father are more likely to live in a poverty. They are more likely to drop out of school. They are more likely to wind up in prison. They are more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. They are more likely to run away from home. they are more likely to become teenage parents themselves. And this is a quote from CNN anchor Don Lemon. Just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should, especially without planning for one or getting married first. More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison, and the cycle continues. Now, this is the sad truth that some desire to cover up, but this is the reality. The real problem is not the systemic racism, but the problem lies on somewhere else. Second, is there institutional, economic, social oppression on the racial minorities? This is plain and simple, no. I wasn't able to find any law that prohibits other races than whites to do anything. In fact, the wealthiest race by median household income in US 2018 is not even white. It's actually Asian with $80,720. If there is an institutional racism and top of the pyramid is white, then how can this be in white America or white Western world? Aren't Asians minorities too, according to the feminists? Canada isn't any different either. It's Asian invasion. LeBron talks about how a bunch of old white men got that slave-owning mentality. What kind of slave have millions of dollars? What kind of slave own $1 million house? Do slaves get to leave whenever they feel like it? But NFL players can. So these are the facts and reality. However, these radical feminists do not take any of these facts into consideration. All they're demanding is equity. Equity for gender ratio and equity for ethnic ratio. This reverse sexism and reverse racism can be seen anywhere now. In Canada, under Employment Equity Act, federal jurisdiction employers are required to engage in proactive employment practices to increase representation of four designated groups: women, people with disabilities, Aboriginal peoples, and visible minorities. How can you tell if they're minorities though? Affirmative action in the US is a set of laws, policies, guidelines, and administrative practices intended to end and correct the effects of a specific form of discrimination. They sound positive, don't they? But what happens if a white male teenager who has the academic capabilities to enter into his desired university but denied due to disproportionate gender and ethnic ratio? I thought we were supposed to not focus on the color of people's skin. I thought we were supposed to judge on behalf of people's capabilities and not their gender. We have progressed as a society, but I'm afraid we have regressed and is regressing. Let me conclude this. There is no institutional racism. Don't be fooled by their rhetoric. It's a myth. God created all men and all women in his image so that we live in harmony and to glorify God. Galatians 3:28 says, "There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." Thank you for watching. If you've liked what you watched, give me a like and press subscribe.